Well, we're just a few hours away from the solar eclipse, and there are stories all over the world about what this means when there's a solar eclipse. Traditions all over the world have different legends and stories. Some of them are quite scary. They say that the world might be about to end, that the moon is swallowing up the sun or devouring it, and some stories say you have to be afraid. But one of the loveliest stories that I've ever heard comes from the Southern Paiute indigenous people of what's known as Nevada and Arizona. And this story says that the sun and the moon are making love when we see a solar eclipse. Now, I'd like to share that story as I recall it from reading it in an article in the Smithsonian magazine. So this is my recollection, this version of the Southern Paiute story. But of course, if you are Southern Paiute, if you've grown up hearing this story, I'd love to hear from you and hear all the parts that I'm sure I've gotten wrong in this rendition of the story. And I'd like to hear the version that you heard growing up of this old story of the sun and the moon. So as the story goes, back in the day, the beings here on Earth, after Coyote had made the Earth, it was populated with all of us beings, so people and animals. And the sun existed, but he didn't like to go out and do his job a lot. And it seemed like to the people that he was very lazy. It seemed like the sun didn't want to come out hardly at all. He would just go hide, and the darkness would last for days and days. People, they couldn't go hunt or fish. They couldn't work the land. And, it was almost impossible to live. Everyone was hungry. Animals couldn't do their thing either. The sun, he would come out for a little while, but he didn't see much point in it, and he would just go right back to sleep again. Now, the people thought the sun was lazy, so they called upon Coyote. They said, "Could you please go see what's happening with this guy?" Now, it turns out he wasn't lazy, he was depressed. But he was depressed because he didn't have a mate. He didn't have a spouse, somebody to love. And the sun looked down on Earth when those few times he would come out, and he told the Coyote, he said, "Every time I go out, I see everyone's happy, everyone's in love, the humans, even the animals, they've all got their partner, their spouse, their husband, their wife, they're happy, and I don't have anyone. So what's the point of doing anything? why stick to it at all?" Well, the Coyote, wise that he was, he decided to fix this, find a solution. So he went to the people, he explained everything to the people, and the people said, "Okay, we'll figure this out." And the people, they picked a lovely young maiden. They went and found the most beautiful maiden they could. Lovely young lady, gorgeous, from one particular village. And they went and they asked her if she would accept. She said yes. And so they brought her as the new wife for the sun. They brought her and introduced her to the sun. And the sun saw her, he said, she's amazing. She's gorgeous. I've never seen anyone so beautiful. And he was happy. And for a while, they were both happy together. And she would join the sun. And after that, the sun, he started coming out every day. And he would journey across the sky. She'd go right with him. The people, they couldn't even see her because, of course, the sun was so bright. But the sun and his new wife, they were just so happy to journey across the sky every day. And a funny thing happened. The more time they spent together, the more the sun started to rub off on her. And she became more and more full of light herself. She shone like gold. And eventually they even went to Coyote. They said, "Can you change her to make her," the sun said, "Can you make her like me, make her round like me, make her have the same shape?" And Coyote said, "Yes, of course." So he did. Well, one day Maiden, she saw herself in the mirror and she said, "I'm gorgeous. Look, I'm so beautiful." And, she started to get a little vain about this. And she said, "I'm so much more beautiful than any of those lousy humans back there in my village. If they could see me now, if they could see what I've become." And the sun's wife, she said, "You know what? I'm going to go to Coyote. I'll see if he'll let me go visit my village." So she did, and the Coyote said, "As you wish." So she was happy to go down and show off for everybody. And really, she felt like she was above it all by now. So she went down to her village, and she actually snuck up on them. And then she jumped out from behind some of the some of the huts and surprised everybody in the village. But, the people in the village, they didn't even realize this was that young maiden that they had known as a human. When they saw her now in her round form as the moon, they saw her jump out and they were terrified. And they started running away from her. And when she saw that, she said, "What? They don't realize how beautiful I am?" And she said, "Look at me. Look at me." She called out and her voice was booming. And the people were even more frightened. They were running away. And she chased after them. And then that discontent turned into anger and rage that the people weren't appreciating her beauty. So she chased after them and she killed some of those people. She could fly through the sky. She could bounce on the ground. And so she started crushing the people. She crushed their houses. She killed several people in that village till finally Coyote stepped in and he said, "I need to put an end to this." And he put her back up in the sky. And then he sat down with the humans, grieving their dead. And they said, look at what that monster did. And Coyote said, that was your sister, your friend, your neighbor. That's what she's become. And they said, "Well, she's become a monster. We need justice. She killed so many of our people. She destroyed our village. We demand justice." And Coyote said, You're right. You'll have justice. We'll sort this out." So Coyote, he went to the moon and he explained to her what happened, and he scolded her, and he made her realize how wickedly she'd behaved and how much pain and suffering she'd caused. And he told her, "You're going to be punished for this." He said, "You're not going to journey with your husband, the sky, anymore. You're gonna have separate shifts from now on. Your husband, he'll go across the sky. Your husband, the sun, rather. Your husband, the sun, will go across the sky during the day, and you will have to go at night. So those people, the people that you hurt so badly, you're going to have to light up the night for them. So if they ever need to go hunting or fishing or do anything at night or walk through the wilderness at night, you'll be out there. You're going to shine for them. And you're not always going to be full either. Most of the time, because you were so filled with vanity, this is your lesson. Most of the time you're going to be partial. In partial form, you'll be a little sliver, maybe half of yourself, and only a few days a month, you will be your full self. And we'll see how long it takes for you to think about what you've done. Well, the moon, she accepted her fate, and so, she did. Every cycle, she would travel across the sky, light up the night for the humans and the animals. And, after some time watching everything and watching those humans and those animals, she felt so repentant for how she'd hurt and killed those people. And time passed, and the people were happy with that night that they had at they had at night, and they thanked Coyote for it. And eventually the moon, she went to Coyote and she asked him for mercy. She said, "Please, I miss my husband. Could you please just let us come together, even just for a few moments?" And Coyote, he said, "You know what? I think that's fair." So he did. And so that's how it happens, that every so often, every few years, it takes a long time, but several years will pass, and every so often we'll see this happen up in the sky when the sun and the moon, husband and wife, they come together. And we can see it for that brief instant, and we don't have to be afraid, because that's the sun and the moon, husband and wife making love with each other. And when we see that, that's a reminder for us to never take love for granted, to never be so filled with vanity or petty, childish anger or selfishness that we do take love for granted. It's a reminder for us to remember the people we love in our lives, to thank them for being in our lives, thank them for loving us, and to be appreciative of the fact and the time that we get to spend with our loved ones when we look up at the sun and the moon for just that brief instant up in the sky when they get to be together again. An old Southern Paiute story as told in a copy of Smithsonian magazine, the story of the sun, the moon, and the eclipse.